one of the things that I find myself repeatedly doing when I make videos for YouTube is always setting up the watermark. And that's a small enough thing, but it gets old really fast. So you may do the same thing, and hopefully this might help you. What you do, and this is Premiere, but the same idea should translate to Final Cut or whatever else it is that you use. Um, just make a template project. I'm using template 2 because I've already built mine, and it's because I figured it out about 20 minutes ago. And you can use this to like cut off so much time from all the shit that you do. Because when you go through this, invariably, you have the stuff that you use every single time. Like, you import for me the watermark, and that's all that I use because I'm lazy and I don't have actual header video or footer stuff or any of that kind of stuff. I talk so much anyway that it just adds a whole bunch of needless bloat. Um, but you can set this up here. And normally when I create sequences, I just create a new sequence from clip. But here, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create just a new sequence. And I will give it a meaningful file name. Template for 256p and stereo audio. And so this implies that I'm going to be working with 256p video because that's what my frame size is at, and that generally works. All this other crap I don't really worry about. The only other thing that you might want to worry about is if you want to change the number of video tracks and change this from stereo to 5.1 sound. I don't ever do that, so for me it's not a big deal. And we'll just go okay. And I will do that again because some of the stuff that I do is at 1080p because some things just work better that way. Some things don't allow you to scale up that high. So that's 1920 and also stereo. This one I don't really need to screw with because this defaults to 1080. And I said 256p, it's really 1440, but whatever, you get the idea. And you can just do this. And you then set up your initial stuff. You don't want to change the sequence settings because you're deliberately, doing these kinds of things. And normally I'll do other things like I'll adjust the transparency and set chroma keys so that the black doesn't appear and all that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show some last other things. If I can figure out how to get these projects to not have audio on them, I would be really happy. And it's probably really simple, but I find After Effects intimidating and it frightens me, so I don't ever mess with it. So I'm just going to copy paste this to the end. And so now I have, that didn't work, it pasted in the wrong place. But assume that I've already placed whatever transparency I want there, and then I can add the nice little roller stuff that I like. The the impact push, I think it is. And so this is now how it's set up for one clip. Now, rather than doing the same procedure all over again for the other one, I can simply cut and paste it into the other sequence. And then because this is at a different frame size, I'd need to adjust the positioning and things like that. But that's a far more trivial thing. And so I have these two sequences at different sizes. And if I wanted a 720 one, I could make that, or whatever other screen size that I normally work at. Now, one last thing that I hope is novel and you will benefit from because no one else ever talks about this is when you go into your source to export, we're not actually going to be exporting anything. We'll use the Q button because that's really handy. Now, I've had this open for a bit, so which is why this is already set. But generally, when you start a new sequence and then you go to save it, it always has, I think it always starts on AVI something or other, and I don't ever use AVI. I always use H256. And then I can have these other settings set at whatever I need to. And I have a preset that I built that I always use, and you can just set it at that. Um, because YouTube only lets you export it, import stuff at essentially 1080. Otherwise, it scales everything else. And you go through and set your audio options and stuff. And this is a personal thing, and I'm just pointing this out. YouTube settings that I find helpful are for the VBR2 pass to get a smaller file size, and then have your target bit rates at 8 and a maximum bit rate, excuse me, of 16. And I have found that this works really well. Now, again, to get this to stick in the project file, if you just queue it, it'll open up the queue thing. And this part now you can ignore. It pops up the media encoder. And as you can see, this is one I was working from it before. And it'll just not export it, so you didn't have to waste time for that. And then you just save it. And it'll save this, and this was template 2. So now if I go through here and I open it up again, and if I open it up again, there we go. I can open this up, and there we go. Now, 2 last things. Oh, and then just to show the export thing, export media, and it's there as it was with the settings that I always use. Now, one thing that I would really strongly suggest is that you save a copy as a backup, because I will screw up later. And I'm suggesting that you do this so that it can save your ass so that you don't screw up later. Anyway, I hope that this was helpful to you.